I work in virtual operations at HoaQ, and it's a pleasure to meet those of you who haven't met me before. And yeah, today is an interesting topic, but I'll start with just with the agenda, just to sort of run us through how the conversation is going to go. So welcome, and then we're going to introduce the guests. The discussion is with some powerful people in the industry and people that are really experienced and have been there. So it's not just a conversation about hype, but what value can we sort of gain from investing in the creative and cultural industry in Africa. So some house rules before we start. Please mute your mics if and turn on your cameras if possible. Feel free to leave your questions in the chat because we would not be taking live questions during this session, but we will try to get to the questions as we go along. If you can put them in the chat, that'll be very helpful. And just a quick note, the call is being recorded and we would be uploading the video to our YouTube channel for other people who are unable to, I guess, make this call to be able to get some of the value that we're going to be getting in this conversation. And for everyone who has joined or registered for this call, we would be adding you to our newsletter. It's pretty easy to leave if you want to, but I do believe that there's so much value that you can gain just from being on our newsletter in terms of understanding what's going on in industry across multiple asset classes. And yeah, it really is. And so yeah, who are we? We are HoaQ Club. HoaQ Club is a community of angel investors and operators that are backing entrepreneurs that are building scalable and amazing businesses for Africa and its diaspora. So whether it's building in Africa for Africa or building in Africa for the rest of the world, as long as it's an amazing idea, amazing business opportunity, you'd find HoaQ there. And our mission really beyond just providing capital is just being able to provide as much support to our founders as possible. Next slide, please. So far, we launched in 2020, and since then we've been able to deploy almost $5 million. We have over 850 angel investors in our community, and that number keeps growing every day. So if you're interested, stay on the call and you'd probably find more than 10 reasons why you should join our community. We have over 130 portfolio companies. We deployed over almost $5 million and across 12 countries. Some of the countries were on the screen. So now it's about 900. So I'm even 50 people behind in my numbers. And yeah, we've deployed across Nigeria, Uganda, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, USA, France, Ivory Coast, and a lot of other countries. And that number continues to grow as we continue to receive applications from the rest of the world. So we're really excited about going forward. Now, today's topic is pretty interesting. We are discussing something that's it's very undervalued, misunderstood, but it's one of the fastest growing asset classes or opportunity areas that exist in Africa, and that is the creative and cultural industry. I know a lot of us have been able to see opportunities, with how music and Afrobeats and Amapiano have become this like global sensations all over the world. We have our artists that are also making waves across multiple industries in the world. We have fashion that's having its moments where African art is becoming and fashion is becoming something that's pretty amazing. We have Kunda Kids, which is a company we invested in that has crossed over 1 billion views with some sensational tunes for people or represented by people of African origin. So if you haven't, you should check it out, especially if you have a kid. They would love it. And yeah, beyond that, yeah, we're really excited to explore this with some people who are in the industry. So it's not just about the hype of the creative and cultural industry, but what are the opportunities, what are the values, what are the opportunity areas, what are the risks, what are the challenges. There's so much to discuss. Today, the session will be moderated by our general manager, Folakemi Osho. And yeah, she's our our in-house genius who helps run things at HoaQ. And yeah, I think I'll pass it on to her to sort of introduce the guests for today, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Bolu. Even though you're trying to hype me up, but thank you very much. I'll take my flowers. I'm super excited today to be joined by three great professionals, not only from building infrastructure to content to, in fact, investing in this sector. So I'm super excited that we have a diverse, panelists where we can talk about the economy as well as investing in the economy. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. For those of you that are joining us for the very first time, we do these sessions every last Thursday of the month here at HoaQ. If you want to be a part of these conversations every month, you can just go on our website, click on HoaQ events, and then register. So once we put up an event, you will get emailed. Right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. My name is, again, Folakemi Osho, and I am moderating today's session, which is on betting on culture, the CCI investment opportunity in Africa. Like Bolu has mentioned, when we talk about the creative economy industry, the conversation often starts with, talent, visibility, the music that is going global, fashion, filmmaking. The creators are going global. While the real question still persists, right? Who owns this IP? How is revenue made? The businesses, how can they scale in a durable way? And as we expand our thesis, we've become less interested in the hype, and we want to know what part of this value chain is investable. What are the risks that are real? What is misunderstood? And how capital can be deployed in ways that can actually strengthen the ecosystem. So today, I'm super excited to have Eric of Filmmakers Mart with me. I'm also excited to have Louisa with me, as well as Samir. So I will start with you, Louisa. Can you briefly introduce yourself and why you got into this space?
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Bolu. Thank you, Folakemi. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm an avid fan of HoaQ and an avid reader of the newsletter, so I encourage people to sign up. So I'm the co-founder and COO of Kunda Kids. So we are one of the fastest growing children's media companies, taking African stories to a global audience. We have globally competitive African-rooted IPs across animation, music, publishing, and experiences. And to keep it brief, my entry into this space came from a very simple gap. As a parent, I struggled to find high-quality children's content where African children, my children, could see themselves represented in the same production quality as global franchises. And my CEO is also my husband, my co-founder and CEO is also my husband. And we noticed that this gap was not cultural. And as seasoned business professionals, we saw that it was commercial. It really signaled an underserved market with global demand. So we've been able to take this storytelling mission globally, scale IPs, look at new ways of distribution and monetization layers across the creative economy. So can't wait for the conversation, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Louisa, for that brief introduction. Now I'll pass it on to Eric. Can you please introduce yourself and share a little bit more about how you got into the space?
Right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Eric Kafui Okyerefo, and I build infrastructure for the creative industry. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Filmmakers Mart, where we are solving the operational challenges that creatives deal with all the time when they have to produce any type of creative content. So we operate beneath the content layer, trying to ensure that creatives are able to, get all the logistics and all the services they need to bring their visuals to life. Yeah. And then what inspired me to get into this industry is that, we all know Africa does not lack talent. What we lack is systems. And we need to build the systems because capital alone cannot scale creativity. So that's what inspired me, and that's what I've been doing since. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Samir, over to you.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Samer. I'm an associate investment officer at the International Finance Corporation, which is the private sector arm of the World Bank Group. So we are effectively a developmental bank. I've been at the IFC since 2020. I'm based currently in Lagos, Nigeria. And I'm also the creative industry champions for Nigeria and West Africa. Before the IFC, I was an economic and finance consultant with several companies in Washington, DC, London, and Paris. I'm very happy to be here today and having these conversations. I'm deeply passionate about the creative industry, which is one of the reasons why I decided to take up the role of the creative industry champion. And I'm really keen to have these discussions with you today.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers. Thank you. Just to dive right into the conversations, and I will start with you, Eric. Having built out an infrastructure, created content, and eventually got invested in, you've raised $2.5 million, right? Why should investors in this room take the creative economy seriously as an asset class? What have you seen over the years that you are solid enough to say investors should invest in this asset class?
Yeah, so I would say it's because attention is the most valuable commodity in the world, right? And then the creative economy owns attention, right? Content is no longer a piece of art, it's scalable IP. So you make a piece of music today, or you make a movie, and it goes on to generate millions of dollars in revenues across licensing, across merchandise, across global distribution. And that is a great thing. But if you look at emerging markets, if you look at places like Nigeria, South Africa, and the rest of Africa, even places like Latin America, Saudi Arabia, and India, what hasn't been built is systems. We have very creative people across all these places. Nigerian music is global now. You go to a village in Italy and you're listening to Davido and Burna Boy, right? What we haven't done is build the systems around it. And so for Africa, it's still very early. Whoever builds the systems for us to be able to scale our content, our music, our games, you get to benefit in the long term in the upside, right? So now is the best time to go in. And if you're looking at just investing in the creative industry, it's not just about books or movies, it's the systems around which the creatives rely on, the systems that creatives use to create content, to access finance, access distribution, all of that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Is it safe to say that creative economy is the new fintech in Africa, or the new climate in Africa?
I would say yes, but it could potentially be as big as the fintech industry. Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Louisa, anything to add? Why should investors take it seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the creative economy, investing in the creative economy is not just about funding content. It's about acquiring long-term cultural assets. In our case, we're very bullish about calling ourselves the Disney of Africa, and for good reason. Our company and our business model is very much built that way. And that's because the creative economy is fundamentally an IP business, as we've said, with one of the highest margins, one of the most defensible asset classes globally. And when you think about the fact that I went to see The Lion King when I was in primary school, and now I'm taking my primary age son to go and see The Lion King, it's unbelievable how the right IPs are able to generate such value. And Africa specifically sits at such an inflection point where demand for culturally relevant content is accelerating faster than supply. And I often say to investors that we're effectively participating in the formation of culture, right? And future cultural infrastructure. What Disney did regarding solidifying American values, we want to do, solidifying African values globally. So it's an incredibly exciting space to be in, and there's a lot to say, but I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you so much. And Samara, you've been investing in this sector. Why?
Well, I can only echo what Louisa and Eric have been saying, but also to add some numbers. I mean, the creative industry in itself accounts for about 2 trillion naira in Nigerian GDP. and it supports around 4 million jobs in Nigeria. And we've realized that most of these jobs are, young people, women that gets empowered through, the creative industry. There is a whole value chain that the creative industry in itself, the sector, brings to the economy that is not negligible. I mean, it's significant. If we think about, if we just look at other markets, let's look at Hollywood and let's look at Bollywood. They are an integrated part of the US economy and the Indian economy, and now it's becoming even more and more global. And we, as the International Finance Corporation, as IFC, we've realized the importance of the creative industry for job creations, for youth development, for women empowerment. And that's why since 2022, when we started really getting engaged into the creative economy in itself, we have deployed more than $800 million globally into the sector. And Africa is clearly a strategic focus because we've spoken about the talent, but we also spoke about the importance of bringing up the African culture to the global stage, and also to empower young people and provide a stable job into the industry.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think it's very important as well, just to note that this economy is not just only booming, but also creating jobs for young people that are just starting up. So the next question will be to Eric and Louisa. You guys have built, you are founders and you're still building. Can you share with some founders in the room who are currently building in this space, what key obstacles that you faced when scaling your different ventures? Eric, you're in film. Louisa, you are in kids entertainment, basically. So what are the obstacles you both have seen in this space, right, while you have been building? And possibly, if you could just run your answer to how your investors can assist you to overcome these problems. I'll start with you, Louisa.
Okay, all right, great. I will answer in real time. Everything I'm talking about is probably what I'm going through right now. But I think some of the challenges have really been about how so much is changing in the industry, because especially in our case, where we have hit shows on YouTube, we're in conversations with broadcast and distribution partners. So much is changing. A lot of IP creators and content owners like us are looking to Netflix and Disney instead of YouTube, but then Disney and Netflix are now looking to YouTube, and so many dynamics are changing within the industry, and especially regarding how children consume media too. For us, a lot of the I wouldn't call it I'll call it an obstacle, but I think one of the opportunities that we've had with the obstacles that we've faced is about validating demand before institutional backing, which is really tough, and finding very creative ways to validate audience data, to have kind of multi-layered ways to achieving monetization. And a lot of that is also educating our investor partners in how fast the industry is changing, and how we all need to adapt. That has been, like I said, a challenge, but an opportunity as well. An education, but something that we are having to respond to very quickly. Yes, so I think in terms of any advice that I would give, it's certainly around being creative about your structures, your finance structures, your distribution, how you want to go about monetization and distribution. I think just the traditional old ways of doing things are dying out, and we are now coming to see more hybrid models of funding and a whole bunch of things. So all of that change, the velocity of the change, especially post-COVID, has been challenging, because you're entering into a market where there's no exact status quo anymore. But that change is also exciting. It adds a level of dynamism to our approach as founders, and gives us a reason to think outside of the box.
Great.
Yeah, and to add to what Louisa had said, COVID showed us that the biggest obstacle is not creativity. Africa is the most creative continent in the world, right? the biggest obstacle is institutional maturity. Creators face FX volatility, limited access to working capital, regulatory complexity across various markets, payroll inefficiencies, all of that. And so until these layers have been built internally on the continent by operators within the industry or people who from the outside who see the value they can add, scaling remains very fragile, and for investors who are here today and institutional financiers like Samer who backed FMM, what they can help is by backing businesses like Kunda kids like FMM that professionalize the entire ecosystem. This way it lowers the risk for everyone along the way. Yeah.
Okay. Louisa, do you have anything to add? Because I saw you on mute.
Just gonna Eric echoed me and I was gonna echo him back. But we've seen a lot of people with fantastic ideas, brilliant ideas, and amazing concepts come into the market and not survive, and it's not because, exactly as Eric said, it's not because of lack of creativity or because of demand, but mainly because of a lot of the structural financing gaps, which I know that we can talk about in more detail.
Okay, thank you so much. Just quickly, I'll move to you again, Louisa. Right, you've talked about how they need to think about monetization, right? But the question here would be, how do you balance your cultural authenticity? Because you see that you are echoing the African culture. So how do you do that while still maintaining commercial viability while you're building for global markets?
It's a really good question, and I've been asked it before. And what I would say is that it doesn't have to be either or. Authenticity is not a trade-off for scale. And I think that we're definitely seeing that. It's often the pathway to it. We were inspired by what we were seeing in the market. I think like a lot of parents stuck at home during COVID, forced to watch CoComelon against their will. So we were able to respond to that quite positively. And I think there was a worry there that we were just going to create like an African version of CoComelon, or just create CoComelon with Black characters, but that was absolutely not it. There's so much diversity and there's so much nuance to be extracted from from Africa's cultures and the diaspora in general. So it doesn't have to be a trade-off, right? Audiences are increasingly seeking differentiated narratives. There's so much opportunity for lots of different people to bring something different to the table. Also, I would say cultural specificity often drives global appeal when executed very well. And I think in our case, we've seen that our own commercial viability really came from being able to format universally, and being able to have strong characters and strong storylines. I don't think we have felt that we have been less African, with a very strong US market. I think we've found more creative and diverse ways of storytelling, and have actually been inspired to not do what has been done because we're already very limited in content coming from the diaspora. So yeah. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Eric, do you have anything to add to what Louisa said?
Yeah, just to weigh in, I believe that having systems in place enable creatives to be able to experiment more, right? Systems reduce leakages, and so creatives are able to experiment more to find what works. And when they find what works, that becomes commercially viable, and it's a win-win for everyone, both the financiers and both the creatives.
All right. Okay.
And just to add to that, on a practical level, I think one of the ways that we've been able to use authenticity as a differentiator, not as a constraint, is by being able to do a lot of market research and testing. And I come from an innovation background, so I love market research, and it's something that we've been able to do. And it's not something that is done not always very well, and also very formally within creative companies and organizations in Africa. So I think exactly like that, having systems and really being able to extract proper insight and the right data for it helps you be able to be authentic in a way that really drives success rather than just, running on vibes.
All right. Thank you so much for that. No running on vibes. Okay, over to you, Samir. We've spoken about, monetizations, how financiers need to deploy more money into the creative economy. So my question to you now is, what does it take for a creative economy company or for creative to become investable at the institutional level?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for these questions. It's actually a question that I get asked a lot every time I attend a creative industry event, because people really wants to know, okay, what do we need to do to attract, commercial banks and DFIs? And that's important. And it's important to understand that, one of the key criteria that we will be looking for is usually having transparent and predictable revenues, which it says a lot, but it's also a very important aspect for de-risking the investment and for investor itself. And how this can be done, you really need, clean IP ownership, solid contracts, preferably medium-term contract that, provide some sort of predictability over the next few years of what you're gonna generate and, how the return on your investment is gonna be achieved. And also, we would be interested in having multiple revenue streams, not just, one single one, because we want to understand, we want to de-risk the investment as much as possible. And the more you focus on a single revenue stream in a very uncertain market, it becomes way riskier than a diversification strategy. But also, we want a repeated pipeline. We are not interested in a one-off investment that generates a lot of revenues, because we, particularly here from the perspective of the IFC, we are really interested in building the ecosystem. We want to create something that we can replicate, we can scale, and we can bring, to starting, let's say, from Nigeria, but to other countries across Africa, and that's a goal for us. So that's also an important aspect to take into considerations. In addition to the revenues aspect, I would say governance and controls are important. We really need to look at reliable financial reports, having a strong management that knows what they are doing and knows how to approach their business and understand the risks that are undertaken in their businesses. Also understand the perspective of the financiers who are putting money on the table in a sector that they are not particularly comfortable with at this stage. So I would say, if I were to summarize, then the stability of revenue, governance and control, model that is scalable and replicable, and a risk structure that is sort of friendly to both the borrower and the lender in itself. And I think, if I may just add a quick note, I think very important, because and I missed probably that, is also the track record. And a lot of the time, and I think both Eric and Louisa has discussed this, it's very important to show to financiers, look, my idea is actually commercially viable and it's working, and it doesn't have to be big. It can be in a pilot stage, it can be in a small size, but to provide a sort of track record and data and comfort to the financiers to understand, okay, this is actually, there is something in there and there is something that can be scaled up. And Filmmakers Mart is an example of a local company that has attracted the interest of the IFCs. Was my first investment in Nigeria that I'm very proud of. But also, we have recently announced the investment in Terra Culture, which is also an authentic, landmark for Lagos that I'm also very, very proud of.
Thank you so much for that. I hope the founders in the room, you guys were taking notes. Give me a thumbs up if you are taking notes. Very good, very good. Okay, so on to the next questions now. This time around, I want us to just have conversations. Feel free to jump in, unmute. I mean, for the speakers now to unmute and just let's have conversations. We talk a lot about the venture capital structure in Africa, right? And how it is, how we are mirroring Silicon Valley, how we're mirroring the other markets, right? Now, my question to the three of you would be, do you think that the traditional venture capital structure is compatible with creative economic businesses in Africa? Or do you think we need to find new financing models?
mean, from a founder perspective, and I'm sure I'd love to get especially Samer's view on this, because my co-founder and I were just discussing that it's not really, we think that it's less whether VC fits creativity, but just more whether there can be more innovation around how to structure capital and how to go about things differently. I think for us, we have gone through sort of the traditional funding route from friends and family to pre-seed to seed. But now we're looking, as things get more intense and we're having to move faster with more projects, we're looking at more hybrid models, trying to see if we can blend venture, royalties. Project finance is something that we've really had to delve into and accelerate our knowledge around. So I don't think it's necessarily that the industry is not adapted to being creative or understanding how creative economies might work or timescales or revenue curves. I just think some of the structures to finance for this kind of business just need to be maybe reviewed and understood, and more options need to be available, because it's a lot less traditional than other industries.
Okay, thank you, Louisa. Samir, Eric, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So personally, I think the creative industry needs blended capital. Traditional VC struggles with pure content bets, like financing a film, especially in Africa, where things like distribution, it's still something we are trying to figure out. I mean, in North America, you'd find studios that raise VC money to fund slates of movies, and it works. But here, the VC model is struggling with backing pure content bets. But where I think traditional VC works with backing platforms and systems on which creatives rely on, payroll systems, marketplaces, insurance products around the creative industry. I think VC works perfectly fine with products or solutions like that within the creative industry. So traditional VC definitely has a place in the creative industry, but we need more options. We need better capital that works with the way creatives actually do their work. Yeah.
Thank you, Samir.
You know, I absolutely agree both with Louisa and Eric, and I think it's very important to be innovative in the way we approach investments into the creative industry in Africa. Clearly, there are some risks that are not applicable to the US and other markets. Leave aside the currency issues and the distribution issues, the infrastructure issues. There are several things that needs to be, that poses significant concerns for any investors, and that makes probably VC investors, but also, large infrastructure investors or traditional investors less keen to approach the sector in itself. I've been in several conversations in the past few weeks where clearly donors are interested in enabling the creative economy and thinking about, a blended finance approach. Traditionally, we have seen a lot of the projects were financed in developing countries really through grants, but we know what happens with a one-off grants. Once the grants expires, the project somehow dies. So now the idea is really to try something that the IFC does is really try to take, grants money and blend them with commercially priced financing, so that you can incentivize companies to continue operating at a profitable level. And then at a certain points, you don't need any more, nor IFC's involvement, nor donors' involvement to continue operating and growing. So certainly I'm interested. Anybody who has a new model of financing that wants to propose, please feel free to chat. I'm always happy to explore opportunities and open to ideas. And yeah.
For sure. Thank you so much. Now, I want to ask this. Should Africa prioritize building global creative champions that export culture? Or should we strengthen the local creative ecosystem first? And why? Eric, I'll start with you.
I think you know what I'm going to say. I would definitely say we should build ecosystems first. and then the champions would follow. If we have strong domestic systems in place, financing, distribution, production, logistics, if all of that is working together, we no longer have stories of isolated successes, where in a year, maybe Nollywood has made 2,000 films and 2 have made it to global stages. But if we build systems that work locally, it becomes predictable. We now have more champions who are taking African stories to the rest of the world. And it's not just about telling our stories, but the fact that with systems in place, we now have options. You no longer have to think, I make my film, should I take it on Netflix? Or do I have to wait for Netflix alone to be able to monetize? If there are local alternatives, creatives now have options. They are now able to even raise money to be able to churn out more content. And that's how an industry grows. And that's how everybody, at the end of the day, everybody wants to make money, right? And that's how we all begin to make money. So yes, ecosystems first, and then the champions will follow. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I don't even know if I should pass it on to Louisa, because literally you're building fast, but please answer the question.
I was going to say, maybe I'll be a bit controversial and say, you know, we don't have any choice but to do both simultaneously right now. The reality is that you could call it an unfortunate reality, but it's just certainly a reality. For us, we know that as a studio that has IPs that are being built and made in Africa, about Africa, for people interested in Africa, etc., we know that for there to be excitement and an acceleration and an interest for partners and things in Africa, be it in Uganda or be it in Nigeria, they want to see the Netflix. I'm not going to lie. They want to see the big name. They want to see the global appeal. So for us, it's the two are interdependent, and we've looked at it as global champions act as ecosystem accelerators, because I find that when we do kind of hit a good vanity metric, right, especially in a larger, more dominant market, it does help shift things even in local markets and the ecosystems there. I think sometimes it's an issue of people not always being able to visualize how successful or how things can go, and there are not always so many examples that can be like for like examples for our business. So we have to do a lot of modeling and a lot of really clear projections. But the reality is that as an African business building for a global audience, global success really does also drive and accelerate business success, sometimes in African markets, more often than not. It's something I would love to change, but I don't think we have to wait to change the system before we go global, I think things can happen simultaneously.
Thank you so much. Samir?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't see the two things as excluding each other. Instead, I think they are complementary. As Louisa said, you know, you need that global audience to also support and accelerate your domestic production. But at the same time, I think Louisa at the beginning of this call said something that's very important, which is authenticity. I think we want to see the authenticity of the stories. When you start producing local content with quality, really, I think the things that is the gaps is the biggest gap is really in terms of infrastructure and production in a world-class quality. Then the moment that you start telling your stories in a forgive me the word, but in a proper way, then you can reach easily the global audience without compromising any sides of your history, and that is fundamental. I mean, if we think about, and there are 2 points that are very important. First is the huge presence of the diaspora, the African diasporas globally, which really want to consume something that is that they feel they can relate to, and that can only be with authentic and local content. And the second thing is, when I think about, you know, I grew up watching Japanese animations. They weren't tailored to global audience. They were tailored to Japanese histories and traditions. But because the quality of it was so high, I was intrigued by it, and I actually became passionate about it. So that's for me is fundamental. I think we really need to start putting more emphasis on local stories, but we need to start producing them through world-class systems. And I think there have been examples in Nigeria. You know, the Black Book, Breath of Life has been just to mention too, that has really brought, you know, Nigerian culture to the world stage.
All right, thank you so much, Samir, Eric, and Louisa. Just so I'm not hogging the mic, I want to move quickly to the questions that we received, just so that we can take as many questions before we do run out of time. So I'll read the first question, which is for Samir. What do you think investors of different categories are missing when it comes to understanding the opportunities if in the creative sector? Really, that's the question.
I don't think that, I think, you know, I don't think that the other investors are not missing the opportunities. Everyone realized there is a huge opportunities, but it's sometimes also to the other sides to be able to understand what actually investors need to see. And this is why, you know, I went through that list of things that we usually and traditionally look at. Now, not every bank is like the IFC. We are an international development bank, so we do tend to their risks our products sometimes through, you know, blended finance, through support from government and so on. So I also understand the perspective that usually more traditional investors undertake when looking at investment into the creative economy. And hopefully our role will be, and I hope to do that through Filmmakers, Mart, now to Terra Culture and the other investment that I'm having in Nigeria, to start enabling, you know, the ecosystem and to start providing clear examples of well-performing operating models in the creative industry that can attract other commercial banks in the market.
Okay, still on you, Samir. How long does the investment process take from your perspective?
It really depends. It really depends on the readiness. It's not usually it's not definitely a 1 month you know, check. It depends also on the check size. It depends also on, you know, the readiness of the investment in itself. A lot of the times we see companies that are not used to international standards when it comes, you know, to, for instance, environmental and social services, when it comes to, you know, auditing and so on. So we tend to come in and provide also that type of technical advice to get them to that stage and then be able to invest. And this is a journey, is a partnership that we like to have with our clients. It takes time, but we hope that at the end, ultimately, it's a rewarding one. I don't know, we have Eric here who has gone through the process and can discuss, although he was the first one, so it was more painful than I think the others. But
yeah, Eric, do you have anything to add? He said it was very painful.
Yeah, so I think for us, we're given a lot of grace because it was IFC's first investment within the creative industry. And like you said, it's very different. IFC's process is a bit different from my experience raising from VC, you know. IFC wanted things like ESG documentation and all of that. And it's something that we are still putting together. So it was pretty intense, but we got a lot of help, you know, from the team to put things together. And I would also say that, you know, if you're looking to speak to people like IFC for financing, I feel, yeah, you may think, yeah, you do not have everything together in place, but you wouldn't know until you reach out to them and they'll tell you how you should go about what it is they're looking for, you know. But yeah, they're really very helpful people who, I mean, during my time, helped us to get things across the line.
Yeah, thank you so much. So for Eric and Louisa, from your point of view, where do you see the possibilities for synergies with other creative industry initiatives in the short, medium, and long term?
Yeah, so for me at FMM, one of the things that I've been focused on doing is partnerships and seeing how we can connect with other people building within the same space, and not just within the creative industry, but people from other industries who are building stuff that the creative industry could use. I could give you a scenario. For a long time, if you are making a movie or you're shooting something, you cannot readily just get something like insurance, right? Because a lot of the insurance companies do not necessarily understand how a movie production works, the timelines, what kind of things happen on the set and all of that. But recently we've partnered with an insurance company and built insurance-specific products for film and TV production, which you can purchase on the FMM marketplace. Some of the other things that we are looking at doing is who are the fintech players that we can partner with and integrate into our system to make access to financial services simpler for creatives or creative businesses and studios that we get to work with. So those are the kind of synergies that from FMM side we tend to look at.
All right, thank you.
In terms of synergies, collaboration and partnership, just as Eric said, is key and fundamental. I think when you start a startup like ours, where you have a big broadcast ambitions, right? It's easy to get so stuck on that you don't think about different alternative ways and people to partner with. I think, for instance, we've been able to gather so many different proof points to aid our broadcast ambitions, like getting on airlines, working with, like, I think getting on Brussels Airlines, and we're just in conversation with American Airlines now, and being able to show that children can sit down and watch this and find non-traditional viewing habits that we can tap into, and other partners that that are also trying to captivate and educate young people and see how to work with them. But I think collaboration and partnerships has been one of the I would say the most fun and innovative ways in which we've had to distribute quickly, and it's been fundamental for proving that we have something solid and something that people want to watch and want to watch again and again.
All right, thank you so much for that answer. I'm just going to run through the questions real quick because we're running out of time. Please, for everyone in the room, you can give us an extra, say, 10 minutes for us to wrap up this session. Great, perfect. For Louisa, as you look to scale globally, would you look to anchor with legacy media or streaming platforms to increase the audience and monetize long term?
I think for us, our priority is certainly around streaming, because we look at the audience trends and the data around how young people are consuming media, and traditional media partners are there for parents, but not necessarily where Gen Alpha are and where they're going to be going. So for us, it's really important to see what the future of digital media looks like. We see that it's going to move from passive consumption to more interactive consumption. And you see that with Roblox and Minecraft and children wanting to create their own worlds. So we definitely are aligning ourselves more with digital streaming, digital viewing, and digitalization. But because for the parents that are here, things like screen time are a concern, we have to also prioritize how we bring shows that are in digital spaces in the physical world, and bring experiences that bring that digital experience to life in the lives of children and families. We have to do both. So as hard as we double down on the more digital and streaming side of things, it has to be matched with different channels of engagement.
Okay, to take this question, advice for founders in the room that are looking to build in the creative industry in the African market, what advice would you give them? How would you advise them to start?
Can I say my biggest advice would be, please think about your distribution. That should be the first thing you think about, and build with your distributors in mind, rather than kind of building and thinking, okay, who do I need to shop this to, right? Have a very clear plan about where you want this to go, and who is going to be a low-hanging fruit, and then, you know, who's going to be a North Star. So I think having a distribution-first mindset is going to save you so much and really set you up for success.
All right, thank you. Eric, Samir, anything to add for for founders in the room that are looking to build in this space?
Yeah, I would say that treat the creative economy as infrastructure, not just entertainment, because if you approach it chasing hits or hype, trust me, it doesn't go well, right? Think around building systems, think about financial discipline, building predictability, repeatable models, things that you can replicate in other jurisdictions, because that's what would unlock, you know, a durable venture. Creativity at trust that gets you the capital.
Is it my internet? I think Eric is frozen.
Yeah, no, I think we've lost Eric. But I
Oh,
can
okay.
only echo what Eric and Louisa said. I mean, they are the experts on this, so I can just learn from them.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much. Just to move on, the next question I believe is for us at HoaQ. Like Bolu had previously shared, HoaQ is a community of operators, professionals that are backing businesses building for Africa and for Africans. Now that we've extended our thesis, we still remain the people behind these startups. So you mentioned that how do we support creators? How can we support creators? Outside of capital, what we pride ourselves in here at HoaQ is being able to assist founders with anything else they might need outside of capital, that being advisory, introductions, partnership conversations, down to acquisition conversations. These are things that we do here at HoaQ for founders. I hope that has answered your question, McQueen. The last question of the day: what is the impact of AI on the industry in Africa? I'm excited about AI. If you can't tell, I'm giggling. I'll start with you, Samir.
I mean, AI is revolutionizing everything, not just the creative industry, and it's really about how the creative and the sector responds to it, and it's able to integrate it to their advantage. I mean, I'm completely now unable to do my job without AI. When I don't think a year ago I knew even what ChatGPT was or any Copilot or all of that. It's become such an essential part of my daily job that, you know, it's significant. And now it's about, okay, how the creatives are gonna use that to integrate into their business model, to innovate and actually get something out of it. I mean, clearly there are sectors that will be more impacted than others, such as animations and all of that. But there is also, you know, how to leverage that opportunity that is presented. And I stop here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's still early days, but I'm excited. AI would improve a lot of things. It would bring about new solutions. Already, I know somebody who is building, who is using AI to build IP protection and IP tracking tools for creatives across music, across films, across animation. And so it's going to be an interesting time. It's also going to help, you know, smaller studios, independent creatives to lower cost, help things with script analysis and all of that. So its impacts would be meaningful, I would say. Yeah.
And I would say probably on a more personal level, because this is something that we are looking at and addressing in real time. We've been able to use AI, especially in our animation process, not for the creative process, but to speed up things like rendering, to be able to duplicate scenarios and clone you know, different buildings for new shows. So it's sped up our production, and we are really grateful for the systems that have been able to improve because of that. But I will also have to say that it has posed some challenges too. Our most popular show is Kunda and Friends, and our most popular items in terms of merch and products is our party packs for birthdays and things like that. So you get people who want to do Summer and Friends or Eric and Friends for their birthday, and they're putting in our characters and their child and generating their own images, and sometimes even creating their own print-on-demand products based on our characters or inspired by our characters. So in the same way that you know, in the past we would have had to worry about things getting on the counterfeit markets and other people reproducing your things, your customers are reproducing it right in front of you, and they're actually telling you that, hey, this is what we're creating. But I think we've looked at that as an invitation to find out how we can excite them around personalization and how we can try to keep one step ahead. But I will be honest that there are some like real-time things that we have to think about, how our customers are engaging in AI and how they're using very simple technologies to almost recreate elements of some of the content that we produce. It's not bad. We love it because it shows us how people are excited to do this. And again, personalization. But we have to be able to analyze the risk very carefully and understand where we need to make it, need to put boundaries. I need to see how far things can go. But production-wise, it's been a blessing.
All right. Thank you to our three speakers. I think this brings us to the end of today's session. A big thank you to Samer, Eric, Louisa. I really, really did enjoy this session. I hope everyone in the room too enjoyed the session. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge with us. If you're in the room, you would love to connect with the speakers, you can search for them on LinkedIn and you can ask them questions, I believe.
Please do.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Please stay remaining. Thank you. Please remain in the room while we quickly run through our updates. I'm just going to unpin secrets. All right. For those of you who are HoaQ members, if you're not yet an HoaQ member, I don't know what you're doing. We currently have 3 deals on our platform. We have Ready. Ready is closing this week. So if you have made your commitment, if you have showed interest, please go to your account, to your dashboard to complete your investment. Next slide, please. We also have 2 deals open, Middleman and Paid. We have their Meet the Founder sessions next week where we would be talking to the founders that are behind these great businesses. Middleman we have on next week Tuesday, Paid next week Thursday. So if you're on Slack, please just go to your Slack, go to events, and you will see the details for these sessions up on there. Next slide. We spoke to Legendary Foods this week. If you missed that session, again, on Slack, you can find all the information there, as well as the memo and the pitch deck. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to the team and we'll get your questions across, as well as share answers to those questions. Next slide. We have different events coming up. Like I mentioned earlier, we do have HoaQ events on our website. So go to hoaQ.co and you'll be able to register for our events. We also do have a fund. I feel like a lot of people do not know this. HoaQ Ventures Fund is a $5 million fund with the aim to invest in founders who are building businesses, who are building tech and tech-enabled startups for Africa and its diaspora. If you would like to learn more about our fund, please check out the link and you can learn more about the fund. Yes, if you enjoyed the session, you would like to be a part of our community, feel free to look us up at hoaQ.co. You can send us an email if you have any questions. I would personally answer those questions for you, and even if you're looking to just learn more about us, feel free to send us an email. And also register to our mailing list. We shared the newsletter bi-weekly, which means that we are bringing to you nuggets, events happening in the ecosystem, and sharing more about what is currently happening in Africa. So anywhere you are, we are there. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, just look up HoaQ Club and you'll find us. Thank you everyone for joining this session, and I hope to see you all next week, Thursday.
Thank you so much, Folakemi.
Thank you. My name is Folakemi Osho, not O Club. It works.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves if you still want to stay on. Just to note, Kunda and Friends, as they have this song, this Amapiano remix. Even I enjoy listening to it. So you can find them on YouTube as
I'm
well.
starting to suspect that all the adults are listening to it more than the kids these days.
Yeah.
I think that's a very positive sign. But I'm more than happy to stick around and answer any questions or, be of help. But I've got a little bit of time, so happy to stick around if anyone has any questions.
That's great.
I have a question.
Hey, Louisa. My question is around, you talked about essentially figuring out how to fund your IP in a separate way. How are you thinking about it? I know this is not recorded anymore. Like, do you plan to raise some